Guys hear me now? How's this? Now, hopefully you guys can hear me. Let me know if that is working, and then that way we can actually hear me. So I'm going to go with the yes because, okay, good. Thumbs up. So, all right, we're going to be talking about the market. We're going to try this again. So now that my audio is working, obviously the market's been pretty tricky out there. We're finally getting a bit of a pullback. And then we're going to be showing you some examples of what I do see out there, both good and bad. I'm looking for a pullback. I'll show you an example of what I think this might be going. But then, of course, I'm looking for examples of where we might be going long if this really is a pullback. Because, for as much as some things have been falling apart, we always need to make sure that we don't get too heavy on the bear side. Because usually a bearish situation is just a moment in time, especially with the markets being at new all-time highs. So we don't want to be too bearish. All right. This was one that I was talking about. So if you guys don't know me, come over here to profitpilot.com, profit-pilot. And then we can talk about, this is Redfin. So if you guys want to read about that, but I will show you some examples. And it was kind of different this time. All right, let me pull up the right. There we go. So we get into the S&P, and a couple things to note about this. Last week we had options expiry, and that was on Friday. And the market just got dragged up there. It was like melting up. The algos, the hedge funds, whatever, were just pushing price up and up and up and up to hit a couple things. Number one, the 1618 retracement. You can see it hit there, went just a little bit. Now we're kind of just oscillating around there. And then also outside of the third ATR, all of these things tell me that price was just overbought. And they just kept running up until options expiry. And then you can see as of Monday, the S&P finally fell. And I'm looking here. I think you guys who like to tune in and see me and talk on Wednesdays, you guys know that for a couple times I've been looking at this 15-minute 50 being like, what the heck is going on? Price should not be up like this with the 15-minute Moxies basically being dead like this. So that's kind of the thing I was looking at. I was like, this thing's got to roll over at some point. And then, of course, you guys know I talk about the hourly 50 and how price hadn't touched the hourly 50 this whole time. At some point, we're going to get a pullback. Well, we're finally starting to get that pullback. Now, I know we're moving up today. I don't think this is the end of the pullback. If anything, this is actually going to be the next leg down of the pullback. And let me show you what I'm looking at and why. If we kind of move back here a little bit, here's another time. Kind of zoom in on here. And you can see on the S&P, and the NASDAQ did the same thing, that we kind of, here's where the pullback starts. You get price coming down, and then it comes down, and then it bounces. You're thinking, oh, hey, are we going to go long? No. This was a fake move up, and then you can see then we roll over. So that's what I'm talking about. I believe we're kind of in this situation. We kind of got that first move down. Okay, some people shorted, and now they're moving it back up, and maybe people are freaking out like, oh, it's okay, maybe that's it. Maybe that's all we need. And then I think we roll over after that. Part of my situation for thinking that is, number one, we have the hourly 8 below the 21. So that's bearish, for near term, that's bearish. And then we also have price trying to move up across a downtrending moving average on the 15-minute time frame. That is not proper. It doesn't like that. And then you can also see that the Moxie indicator is still below 0. I know they're green, but they're both below 0, okay? So I'm looking at this as there's a bounce before we roll over. So if you guys like to go short, and if you're looking for the short side, I would say this is probably something about where we're going to get a short. Of course, we want to see it actually start to roll over, but I wouldn't be surprised to see some fireworks tomorrow to the downside. Let me show you the NASDAQ, and then I'll go over to the SMH, the semis, to show you a little bit further of what I'm looking at. So look at the NASDAQ. It's a little bit worse off, right? You kind of look at this, and you're like, oh, okay, that makes more sense. I'm looking at this, possibly price getting rejected by the underside of the hourly 50. And then the same thing for the S&P. You have the 8 below the 21. And then also the same thing with the S&P is you do have price trying to push up across a downtrending moving average on the 15-minute time frame. So that's actually just price moving right into resistance. And then if you look here, we've got the Moxie indicator below 0.2. So nothing I see, even though this is a move up, nothing I see says anything bullish. And nothing I see says, oh, we should be looking long. Absolutely not. I don't see any of that. So let me then run over to the SMH, and I'll show you what I'm looking at and why some things can kind of take a little while to get going. So the SMH, you can see here, right through there, you see how price fell back below the hourly 50 and then it started to move up. You can see this looks like the S&P. You see how the S&P currently is trying to move up through the hourly 50? Well, if we look at where that was right here on the 15-minute time frame. That was price trying to move up through, I'll show you right here, up through a downtrending 15-minute 50, and the Moxie indicator is below zero. So you seeing what I'm trying to point out here? SMH actually gave a pretty good example of what I'm expecting for both the NASDAQ and the S&P. Now, I don't know if it's going to chop around for 2 more days before we finally get a bigger move down. That I don't know. But what I can tell you is that none of this was bullish. The Moxie indicator was never very good. And you can see here on the hourly chart that price kept getting rejected by the underside of the hourly 50 with, for the most part, the 8 below the 21. So I am not bullish on this market yet. I see that we're moving up. That's fine. I'm looking at that as a move up into resistance, and it's probably going to be a place to short if you're interested in that. Now, I talk about this a lot. I'm not always the biggest fan of shorting an uptrending move or trying to catch a pullback. But I think in this case, there's a little bit of meat on the bone. I want to try and get it. And I do think that the NASDAQ moves down to, the daily 21, maybe just a little bit below. And we're going to have to just watch and see how that kind of unfolds. So let me go and show you a couple examples of what I'm seeing out there in various ways. Some of them are to show you, wow, this market's really having an issue and things just can't get out of their own ways. Other ones that I'm going to show you is, hey, yeah, they've had some pretty big moves down, but overall they're trying to trend sideways, and maybe we're going to be starting to rebuild to move up. So watch for that. All right, so one of the ones, if we look at space, which is Virgin Galactic, I am actually astonished that this thing just keeps letting go. And I think, at least for the last week, part of what we've been seeing as far as the reason why it keeps going down, there was news that Richard Branson sold some shares. Well, that was that. And then I hear Cathie Woods and her ARK investment is starting to sell shares of space. So it's kind of getting double whammied as far as to the downside. It's pretty rough. So it's not having a good time. Is that at a point where it should reverse? Sure. But am I going to go buy this? No, because I'm not going to go try and just buy the dip. Yes, it's at the third ATR. Yeah, we're seeing some divergence, but it is still underneath these moving averages. It's still underneath these moving averages. There's nothing to do yet. It's still trying to figure itself out. So this is where I'm looking at and saying, hey, this is a pretty rough situation. And the last time that I tried trading it was right there. I saw this as a trampoline move. I was expecting price to hold the hourly 50, and then I wanted to see price get up and over like that, and it never did. So when it broke, we got out and said, nope, it's not working. Now let me show you Tesla as an example of what I do want to see, like something that is actually doing a little bit better than the rest of the crowd. So Tesla, you can see what it do. It did get on top of its hourly 50, and it bounced off of its hourly 50. So far, this is looking pretty good. And what you can see here is starting to hold the hourly 200. This looks good. And this is a potential double bottom with a trampoline move. You can see here's your double bottom. There's your positive divergence. It's not totally set in stone yet. And we do need to be very careful. There are earnings coming up. Anything goes with earnings. Anything goes. I don't care how bullish a chart looks. Anything goes. Just look at Netflix, okay? So anything goes for earnings, and that's why I don't play earnings. I wait until after earnings. Everything I try and teach can go right out the window because of the unknown of earnings. Overall, I'm looking at this. Will price be able to hold the daily 50, or is this an inverse trampoline move and price is going to move lower? We don't know yet, and I don't want to be around for earnings. So, for example, look at Netflix. First of all, Netflix has been a little bit choppy. Okay. Second off, yeah, this looked like a fairly decent chart. It looked as though price wanted to stay over the daily 50. It looked like price was coming out of a trampoline move, and, just barely it looked like maybe price was going to hold the 15-minute 50. But again, earnings. I don't trade earnings. And this is why. Look at that big move to the downside. I don't want to be part of that. And this is where I say, and I just try and express some caution with Tesla, Netflix was over the daily 50, but the Moxie indicator was below zero. That's an inverse trampoline move. Price shouldn't be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below zero, and Tesla is currently in that situation. So we're just going to have to wait and see what happens to Tesla after earnings, and I'll check back later on that one. How about another one? We got Square. Now, this is a little bit more in line of what I'd be looking for. Number one, a pullback, because you can see here, what did price do? This was price getting over the daily 50, but the Moxie indicator was below zero. That's an inverse trampoline move, right? Price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below zero. And I teach this all the time. I know we got some Moxie people in there, and what is this? This is the first move where price crossed the 50. This is now the second move coming into that support. And now we're just going to have to wait and watch and see if this is actually going to hold, because this on the hourly chart is a potential trampoline move. And we're going to have to see, does price hold the hourly 200? And what about this double bottom we're seeing with some positive divergence on the 15? Now, this isn't ready yet. I'm still expecting the market to pull back a little bit. So if the market pulls back and something like Square actually hangs in there pretty well, doesn't really move, then Square might be one of the first things that is ready to go up when the market is done going down. So do keep an eye on something like this. But for right now, not touching it. It's still sorting itself out. But this pullback right here to here is exactly what I was expecting. This is exactly what I'm expecting with the NASDAQ and the S&P. I'm expecting price to pull back to some support. I don't know if it's going to be the daily 50 or the daily 21, but we do need to expect some pullback. Look at ADSK, Autodesk, same thing. Do you see the exact same move that I'm talking about? Here is price pulling back to the daily 50. And here is where price crossed the daily 50 for the first time. But because price was over the daily 50 and the Moxie indicator was below zero, that's an inverse trampoline move, and I'm expecting price to pull back. We got that. And you can see here, it broke off the hourly 50, but we are in a potential trampoline move, but we're just not there yet. We are still here on the 15-minute. We still have price running into a downtrending 15-minute 50. And on the hourly, we still have the 8 below the 21. So there's still work to be done. If these things are going to be trying to go up, they've got work to be done. They're not ready yet. Let's see, ADT was kind of the same thing. I mean, it's amazing when you start seeing these things and the patterns are all doing the same thing. So look, first time price crossed over the daily 50, had a big old gap, price came back down to the daily 50. So remember, you Moxie people out there, that's the first move versus the second move. And then right here, we got price down here, not quite a trampoline move, but the premise of what it's doing, pulling back. We're going to see if it can find some support, something through here. And it's just not ready though, because price is still below the 15-minute 50 and the Moxie indicator is still below zero. So just nothing there. All right, then let's look at DDOG. This is another kind of situation that I'm seeing from a lot of things. So Autodesk and ADT and Square, they were all able to get over the daily 50 and then pull back to the daily 50. Here's another situation that I've been seeing here. Price running right into a downtrending daily 50. That is natural resistance. Like oftentimes price sees that moving average, it's not going to be able to get on top of it. And you can see right here that DDOG ran right smack into the underside of a downtrending daily 50 and got rejected from it. And you can see kind of the same basic situation for Square and ADSK and ADT, all those. Potential trampoline move because the Moxie indicator is still above zero, but it's just not ready yet. So we're going to have to give this some more time to let it sort itself out and see if this thing is actually going to hold kind of in this area. But we're going to have to wait. Price is still below the 15-minute 50 and the Moxie indicator is still below zero. So just nothing to do yet with that. Redfin. I've had a couple examples about this. I've written a couple newsletters. So it's different this time. You can see here, price was below the daily 50. It managed to get back on top of it and follow all the Moxie rules. Price was below the daily 50, managed to get back on top, follow the Moxie rules, had some good runs. How about this one? It's different, isn't it? Look at that. It's like a triple bottom, not really doing much. The Moxie indicator is looking pretty rough. And now we really do have pretty serious daily 50 trending down. So we're kind of trying to sort this one out. Like, what's this going to do? It's not looking hot. And you can see right in through here, uh, unlike Tesla and like space, it could not get past its hourly 200. It just couldn't get any place. It's just not doing anything. This thing's a mess. And this is a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing out there. All right, so we'll get into some of the ones that you guys are looking at. Yeah, so as far as Tesla closing above 750 this week, I'm just not even going to comment on that because we have earnings. So we'll get back to it after earnings and see what we can do. Box, yeah, another one I'm looking at. Here is actually a pretty good example of when we see a pullback. When I say that there's still work to be done until price can go up, this is a pretty good example because here was that pullback to the daily 50. So again, you Moxie people out there, here's the first move, here's the second move, back to support, right? And as far as where I say that some of these other names like Square and ADT and Autodesk aren't ready because you see here, price was still underneath the 15-minute 50. There's no long trade there. There's nothing. Then we finally get a pop, but you notice that price can't hold the 15-minute 50. Can't hold it, can't hold it, can't hold it. Okay, now we're starting to hold. Only in the last day or two has price actually started to engage with the 15-minute 50. And yes, the Moxie indicator is above zero, so that's good. But look how long it took for that to actually happen. And if we look here at the hourly chart and I say on these other names, hey, the hourly 8 is still below the 21, that's you can't go long. Yeah, let me zoom in and look how long it took until the hourly 8 got on top of the 21. Look how long that took. And this is all I'm trying to show you guys is just don't jump the gun. Just because something's down here or starts to pop, it can take a long time of just trending sideways before it ever starts to set up in a meaningful way. So there might be some opportunity here. It's a little early for me, especially when I'm expecting the market to pull back. But something like this you might want to pay attention to as far as finding some strength eventually. SLB, Schlumberger, not seeing it. And to my Moxie group, this is some of the stuff I was pointing out about Disney the other day, right? What was the issue with Disney? Disney kept getting rejected by the underside of its hourly 200. And look, the Moxie indicator was below zero the whole time. So you guys know me. How about the inverse trampoline move? Like, right? Price should not be over the 50. If the Moxie indicator is below zero, what do we have there? That's it. Those are multiple inverse trampolines. Price should not be over the 50. If the Moxie indicator is below zero, don't go long. Don't go long. And then, as I said, getting rejected by the hourly 200 and slicing through the daily 50. So nothing to do there yet. I don't see a reversion. It looks like earnings are coming up, so I wouldn't even touch that until after earnings. Yeah, so gold, silver. I probably should have gotten into silver yesterday. I thought maybe there would be one more dip. It decided to pop. Okay, at this point, I'm a little bit late to get into something like gold. Gold would have been better back here at the trampoline move. And at this point, I'm not so sure. As I said, I'm a little late to the party on this one. So it's here at the daily third ATR. You know, maybe it can keep going further, but I'd rather wait till some sort of pullback or something else. I think I've kind of missed the boat on gold. And then silver, yeah, it's pushing through the daily 50. What I was looking at getting, I thought there'd be just a little bit of a notch right there because price was underneath the 15-minute 50. I thought maybe there'd be just one more little dip and then I could get in. Unfortunately, today, then it's popping up. So, yeah, it looks fine. It looks good. I'm going to wait for the next opportunity to get into something like this one. All right, then let's see. Home Depot. Like, what do we even say about Home Depot? I mean, this thing has been pushing up like crazy. It is finally starting to touch the hourly 50. The Moxie indicator is pretty much at zero. So if you're in this, personally, I don't know how much more this thing can keep going up. The Moxie indicator's been running out. It's starting to get a little bit weaker. The Moxie indicator's below zero. It's starting to chop. Personally, I don't know what you do with this. If you're in it, I'd say, hey, I hope you had a good time with it. I'd cash in. I'm not so sure I'd want to go short because this thing's a pretty strong something, and I don't know if it's really just going to fall over very quickly. So yeah, I don't know what else to do other than say, hey, pat yourself on the back if you've been in it. Start cashing in. All right, Blink. Still not much here. These names just haven't been doing anything. All these crazy names that I was doing so well with back in November to February, they all fell apart mid-February. And look at this. You can see price got rejected by the underside of a downtrending daily 50, and it just couldn't hold. This is actually a really good example of Square, of ADP, of ADSK, of DDOG, right? Why am I saying that? Because they are all right about here, right? Price is coming down. The question is price going to hold the hourly 200? And if you look here on the 15, price never held the 15-minute 50, never got on top of it. And so this is why when I look at these other names, okay, if you guys are trying to look long, cool, but it's not ready yet. It's still underneath these moving averages. It's still underneath the 15-minute 50. The 8 is still below the 21 on the hourly chart. There's nothing to do with these names. If you're writing them down, great. And if you're trying to go long, there's no opportunity yet. There's nothing. So something like Blink, it's trying. You can see here it's trying, but it's not ready yet. We still have this. I mean, look at Box. Look how long it can take before these things really start to set up. So I do not see anything yet as far as going long on this stuff. XPEV is going to be the same thing. Look at this thing. It has been meandering along the bottom. It is like, can't get past the daily 50. It's got a triple bottom. Like, when is this thing going to work? I don't know. Doesn't look like it's ready quite yet. It's trying. It looks like it's just starting to hold the 15-minute 50. The Moxie indicator is looking decent, but we're still dealing with a downtrending hourly 50. And until we can turn that hourly 50 into support instead of resistance, I'm just not interested because it just hasn't been working so far. And I'm not really super interested in jumping into something like this that just hasn't been going anywhere for quite some time. I mean, we've been in cash compared for these names for weeks, if not a couple months at this point. All right, so Baba, same story. Like, what are you supposed to do with this? It has been all choppy. You can see here it got rejected by the underside of a downtrending daily 50 again, and it's just slicing right through all these moving averages. And look at the 15. It is just following the 15-minute 50 on down. So unless you're short in the short term, I don't know what you're trying to do with this. Price has been trying to move down. Okay, I hope you took a short. If you're trying to go long, I don't see it yet. These things are all in chop. There's nothing going on with them. Yeah, UVXY, VIX, gosh, there's nothing really much to do with this either. I mean, it has just been going down. Yeah, there was a little blip. There might be another, if we kind of look at this, there might be another little bit move up if the markets move down. But gosh, there's just nothing to really say about this. I know the Moxie indicator is up wildly here. I'm going to have to see a little bit more further development because the UVXY has just been basically untradeable and has not been giving me much information for the last, I mean, look at that. There's just nothing to do. This market is freaking insane for the last few months. All right, AMRS, see what's going on that one. Yeah, funny names that you guys are giving me. I don't know what to do with this one. Maybe price down, Moxie indicator up. Okay, maybe we're starting to see a slowdown to the downside. Maybe it's starting to put some pressure upward. We do see price down, Moxie indicator up. This is getting pretty tight. Okay, so if you wanted to start looking long, this is about where you could try. But boy, you are at the cutting edge. Like, we are just right here of price trying to hold the 15-minute 50, but we are still underneath a downtrending hourly 50, and the daily 8 is still significantly below the 21. So usually if you get some sort of bounce, maybe there's a bounce, but I always like to get the pullback and then the next move up because I really kind of want to see the hourly 50 turn into support. I don't really want to just try and catch a bounce. So yeah, that one doesn't quite interest me yet, but I see what you're probably looking at here. All right, now QCOM. What's the big fascination about QCOM? It must have been, I know somebody put out as a buy report. It must have been a big fund, big trader, big something, because I keep getting QCOM coming up as a question. And my stance has been, it's going to have issues as it's trying to get past the daily 50. It's just going to. You can see it still can't get past the daily 50. Now, can that change? Absolutely. It might work at some point, but it's not ready yet. And look, price still got rejected by the hourly 50. I've been pointing that out. And then, still, we are below a downtrending 15-minute 50, and we are still below a downtrending hourly 50, you know, sure, at some point, when this thing decides to turn around, it'll start to move up, but I'm going to have to wait until I actually see that. And we're going to have to see it actually engage with some moving averages to the upside and do something. And I do not want to be around for earnings. Maybe it goes sky high for earnings, maybe. But trading earnings on that roulette, it's just not my deal. So I don't want to be trading earnings into that. All right, let's do Riot, and then we'll move on from there. Yeah, I know not too much to say about this market because it's been just a very, very challenging market. So cash has been king and real challenging out there. So as far as Riot goes, this was MSTR, Riot, Can, Mara. They all had a giant buy the rumors, sell the news situation, do that at Coinbase. So we had that move up leading up to the Coinbase IPO, and then everything just flopped ever since then. And what you can see is, look, price just followed the 15-minute 50 down, okay? Now, it looks like it's getting a little oversold. We're getting a little bit of a bounce, something like that. But again, I'm waiting for something else. Like this is not an up move yet. It has not shown me that it wants to engage with any moving averages yet. This is not anything yet. What I'd want to see is this, where price holds the 15-minute 50, and it's not doing that yet. And you can see that the hourly 8 is still below the 21, so there's nothing there yet. There's just nothing to do. Back here, like where we talk about here and here, the difference is on the hourly chart right there, you had the 8 over the 21. The 8 is below the 21 right now. So, yeah, it's kind of oversold. Yeah, sure, there might be a move to the upside. I don't quite see it yet. So keep your eye out for it. You got to wait for these moving averages to turn into support, and right now they're just not there. So crazy market out there, guys. I know it's a little frustrating. Trust me. I'm looking at it too. I think the market's pulling back. I want to see more downside. I do not think that this move to the upside that we're seeing right now, it's not legitimate. So I'm looking for that to move up and then roll over. I think I showed you the example with SMH. So keep that in your back pocket. And I'm not getting lured in on this yet. I think that there's still more downside. So if you guys have any more questions, need to see anything about me and who I am, and familiarize yourself with me and want to see about the Moxie indicator, any kind of classes I talk about and teach, come over here to profitpilot.com. I'll see you around.